supports that policy is the United Auto Workers Union, but Republicans, members of Congress, don't like that. Automakers don't like that. They're pointing out that the biggest exporter of cars from the U.S. is BMW, which is a German company. So those are some of the things that the EU commissioner and the president were going to talk about.
And then there's also this meeting today with farm state Republican members of Congress. President Trump yesterday announced a $12 billion aid package for farmers hurt by retaliatory tariffs from China and other countries responding to Trump's tariffs. Just briefly, what do you expect Trump will hear from those members of Congress?
I think he's going to hear in private what he's heard in public, which is a huge chorus of opposition from farmers and agribusiness and Republicans in Congress from farm states. They don't like the tariffs, and they don't like the solution he's come up with to cushion the blow of the tariffs that China and Europe put on ag products in retaliation for U.S. tariffs. Farmers say they want trade, not aid. Some members of Congress have even called this Soviet-style economics.
Okay, NPR national political correspondent Mara Liasson, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to turn now to Douglas Holtz-Eakin. He was the chief economist for President George W. Bush. He was director of the Congressional Budget Office and the director of economic policy for Senator John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign. Welcome to All Things Considered.
Thanks for having me.
So you have experience with this, of course, because George W. Bush imposed tariffs of upwards of 30% on several countries, right, related to steel. How did those work out? Help us understand how tariff or trade war can work out.
Here was the dynamic. Inside the White House, there was a division. That's not something new today. It was true then. I was among the economists arguing that this was a bad idea, that we could document the damage to steel-consuming industries being greater than any gains the steel producers might have, that it was quite likely that our trade allies would retaliate against us if we did this, and that these would not survive scrutiny by the WTO. As it turned out, the president went ahead and imposed the tariffs. The damage was incurred by the U.S. It was a net loser economically. The World Trade Organization said these are in violation of your agreements. You have to get rid of them, and they were dropped. And the retaliation that took place, some of that remains in place today. So it was a step backward from trying to open up global trade. And I think it was a bad idea then and probably a bad idea now.
So what does that mean? What pitfalls do you see the U.S. falling into in taking this same path all these years later?
I see no particular defense of the steel and aluminum tariffs. I am nervous about how the renegotiation of NAFTA turns out. And I'm prepared to be convinced that this new strategy toward China actually works. The old strategies didn't. China is a problem. So I'm going to wait and see position on that one. I think the president selected the right target, and we hope this works. But it carries great risk. And that's
at the same time, it does with Europe.
Until you get the outcome, you can claim all the leverage you want, but leverage is only useful when you get the result, and we've got no result.
You know, you tweeted yesterday, if tariffs are the greatest and trade wars are easy to win, why do you have to buy the political silence of farmers? And I guess you're referencing the $12 billion package of emergency aid to American farmers. Is that what you see that as, buying of silence?
The midterms are coming. That's a key constituency for the president and for Republicans who are up in the midterms. It sure looks that way to me. And if you take the strategy at face value, it says we, United Americans, will suffer some near-term harm. You know, we, the administration, are going to tell you that's coming. These tariffs have some harm, but it's worth it. And we'll get these improvements in trading, and we'll all prosper. Why then single out the farmers to get $12 billion? What about the fisheries? What about the manufacturers? It doesn't really hang together. The logic of it is a little bit troubling to me.
You've had to do budget predictions, right, with the Congressional Budget Office. If the U.S. continues down this path, what do you see? What kind of forecast is there?
It's easy to see what happens. Tariffs are just taxes, and so the purchase price of things goes up. That'll create some inflation in the economy. We haven't had a lot, but this is a way to get a quick jolt of inflation. The economy's roaring right now. It's growing quite rapidly, lots of jobs. This goes the other direction. Big tax increase slows the economy down, runs the risk of slipping back into recession. There isn't any real upside in the tariffs themselves. The president's claiming that tariffs lead to something that's better, but the tariffs are bad news in and of themselves.
Douglas Holtz-Eakin, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
And Douglas Holtz-Eakin is the president of... Right, the story on the secret recording of a conversation between Canada, who alleges she had an affair with Trump.
The local station board of WPFW-FM 89.3 presents the 5th Annual Blues Festival, Saturday, August 11th at Lamont's Entertainment Complex, 4400 Livingston Road, Pamunkey, Maryland. Grab a lawn chair and an umbrella and come enjoy an afternoon of dynamic blues. Performing will be Jim Bennett, Full Power Blues, Clarence Bluesman Turner, Mark Winters Blues Warriors, Kareem Lo Maceo Walks, B.T. Richardson, Vintage number 18, and Avon Dunes. WPFW Blues programmers will be your MCs. The donation is $25 and all proceeds benefit WPFW. For ticket information, call 202-588-09WFM.org. Tickets will be available at the gate. Come out and support WPFW 89.3 FM, your station for jazz and justice. And don't forget the blues.
Jazz and Justice Radio here at WPFW. I'm Helen, your diva of the day, and in that last set we heard Keiko Matsui performing Light Above the Trees from the piano, and then after that we heard Nina Simone performing Summertime from Nina Simone at Town Hall, and then that last piece was Elizabeth de Balchus from Wooden Horse, and that was called Sunrise, because this is my summer fun show. And here's some more music. That was the irrepressible Mary Ben Ari performing Sunny from the Temple of Beautiful. You're listening to the Sophie's Parlor edition of Jazz and Justice Radio on WPFW. And on the air right now, we have with us Rose Strode. Welcome to the show, Rose.
Thank you, Helen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad that you could take the time out. Rose is actually going to be doing a workshop tomorrow at the Femme Fatale D.C. pop-up called Choosing Anger, Rage as a Sustainable Resource for the Poetry. And it's going to both explore ways that poets shape anger into poetry that crushes assumptions and refuses to reduce evil to stereotypes. And we'll discuss the role of compassion, not as a path to forgiveness, nor as a mean of avoiding confrontation, but as a tool to keep the poetry of anger precise and honest. And Rose is a teacher, gardener, essayist, and poet whose work and most recent work will be forthcoming in Minerva Rising. And you're currently a student at the MFA program for poetry at George Mason?
Yes, I'll be entering in the fall. I'm really honored that they accepted my application this year, so I'm excited for a new chapter in my life.
Wonderful. And a volunteer gardener at a Buddhist temple.
Yes, indeed.
So that's where the compassion comes in.
I suppose it does, yes.
So can you tell us what inspired you to create the workshop?
Oh, well, gosh, where to start, right? Because it's about anger, and it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out where our feelings of anger have their roots, isn't it? So where are we now? It's July 2018, and about this time last year, I was dealing with a situation that was very difficult. I was being harassed at one of my gardening workplaces. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but I suppose you and probably all of our listeners have experienced something similar in the past, so you can fill in the blanks. The harasser was very belligerent, and when I failed to reach out to him, and tried to help him see how his behavior was impacting me, I had to go to the authorities and say, the authorities at the workplace, and say, I need some help here. And instead of receiving help, they became angry at me for making trouble, at least partly to blame. It's difficult to live with when you're in a situation that you can't escape, and you have to deal with someone who's behaving in a way that's an assault on your dignity, an assault on your identity, and he's unpredictable and potentially violent. And so I was very angry about it, as you can imagine. And I found that anger was really distracting, not only from my gardening work, but also from my poetry and my writing. I would sit down at my desk and try to concentrate, but my mind kept going back to this stressful situation that I couldn't resolve, no matter how I tried. And then I received a message one day from my friend, poet Leslie Ann Hobayan, who teaches at Rutgers University, and she told me that there was a call for proposals for sessions at the Split This Rock Writers Conference.
Oh, yes.
Yes. They are a local group here in D.C., particularly in the public venue, and they want to make it part of our daily life. They want poetry to have a role specifically to bear witness to injustice and to inspire change. And so my friend Leslie Ann said, well, we should do a session. We should propose a session and co-teach it. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to talk about anger. So that's where that began. And then the session there, I was a little shocked, very happy, and also a little sad at how many people crammed themselves into the room to hear. There was not a single chair without a butt in it. There was no space on the floor. People sat on the floor. There were probably 3 times as many people as we had anticipated.
Wow.
And so, of course, I was very glad that, my class, our class, Leslie Aon's class and mine, was receiving such attention. Clearly there was a need for it, right? People were feeling angry.
People are angry, I think,
Yeah.
these days, yes.
Absolutely. And I was very much aware that my own situation where I was being harassed was really a microscopic particle in the larger social and political landscape of anger going on right now. You know, the harassment I was receiving is really, it's significant in itself, but nothing compared to what other people have endured. And I thought, I need to do something with this. So then I spoke with Kristen Zori-King at Moonlit, and she put me in touch with the folks over at Femme Fatale. So that's kind of the origin.
Yes, and I love the fact that there's a space where women can go and experience workshops like yours and probably even suggest some. So I would also recommend that people check out Femme Fatale D.C. and see what's there. So in bringing this to the point where we can help people, and what are the expected results, do you think, and what kind of catharsis do you think people will have through this experience?
Well, I love that you use the word catharsis outside of the classroom. It's a great word, isn't it? I have a lot of thoughts about catharsis. Well, probably, most people know that catharsis is a term that originally applied to ancient Greek plays, right? People would go to see these plays, and in a public venue would feel intense pain or anger or despair based on what was going on in the play, and give vent to those emotions together, right? So I hope that people will feel a sense of catharsis, but catharsis on its own as a goal isn't enough for me, because it can be used wrongly, right? If you think of 1984, and there's the protagonist in there, what was his name? Winston? He has to go to something called the 2 Minutes Hate, which is also a public venue for experiencing intense emotions, but they're all directed at the enemies of Big Brother, the enemies of the state, right? It's a situation where people are deliberately othered. And it's done not only to create a unified front against whoever these perceived enemies are, but also to occupy the minds of the people and distract them and keep them exhausted, because hate is exhausting. So there's a moment of catharsis there that's actually pleasurable, even to the protagonist, but it also exhausts him, right? And we can see that happening now with all the, Trump's political rallies. It's a 2 Minutes Hate writ large.
Right.
So catharsis itself, while valuable in a good situation, isn't enough. So when I was working on this workshop and asking myself questions, one of the questions I asked was, well, what beyond a sense of relief do I want to create? And what's the difference between these two kinds of public venues where catharsis is being experienced and anger is being engaged and released? And the conclusion I came to was that in the case of the Trump rallies and the 2 Minutes Hate, what was going on there was that the focus was being diminished. So we're constricting our society to a select few people with a definition that's artificially chosen, and everyone outside that is othered. Everyone outside that is the enemy and a potential threat to civilization as we know it, in capital letters, right? Whereas what I want to create, and catharsis used in its ideal situation, is to do the exact opposite, to expand those definitions, see where there's overlap between experiences, and to really look at because of our anger, which often is in fear. So we must also look at what frightens us and to be very honest about that. So catharsis, yes, but even more so, trying to be honest, which really is hard work.
Right, and because we're trained not to be angry, especially women.
Yes.
Yes. I just want to remind everyone that we're talking to Rose Strode, and she will have a workshop tomorrow called Choosing Anger, Rage as a Sustainable Resource for the Poetry. And that will be at the Femme Fatale pop-up in D.C., which is on Wisconsin Avenue. And I also wanted to just, to kind of wrap up, there's the balance between the fear and the anger. What about between compassion and anger? And I was wondering, since you've had to go through this yourself in order to be able to teach it to other people, what are some tools that you use to bring the compassion into dealing with the anger?
Thank you for asking that. I think that's a really important question, and I'm constantly in new ways myself and learning as I go. With the help of my initial co-instructor, Leslie Ann, we incorporated yoga moves, and I will be using those in my workshop tomorrow. So the breathing and the physical motion and focus all are one way of bringing into balance. And I want to emphasize that at least in the context of the workshop, the yoga is not intended to extirpate anger, but as you put it, to keep it in balance, to be able to sit with it and see what's at its root. But personally, I don't use just yoga, right? As a Buddhist, I find that chanting is a wonderful way to focus my mind. And working in the garden, again, these things both involve physical things, right? Chanting involves your breath. Working in the garden involves the whole body. And for me, that's really interesting because I find that what I use to keep compassion and anger in balance are also the same things that I use when I become stuck as a writer to combat my writer's block. So, moving around.
Some grounding, possibly.
Grounding is a good way of putting it. Robert Pinsky, who's the poet laureate and who now teaches at Boston University, writes that poetry is a bodily art. There's a quote here from him. The medium of poetry is a human body. Right? The column of the air inside the chest is shaped to signify the sound and larynx in the mouth. Poetry is just as physical or bodily an art as dancing. And so poetry for me is a way of maintaining balance between compassion and anger, but also the act of reading other people's poems, as well as doing other physical activities, like yoga, chanting, gardening, help bring me into balance in a real way and help me focus the mind. I hope that answers your question.
Beautifully. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And again, I'd like to encourage everyone to go check out femmefataledc.com and find out more about Choosing Anger, Rage as a Sustainable Resource for the Poetry. Thank you so much, Rose, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
The next meeting of the WPFW Local Station Board will take place on Wednesday, August 8th, 2018, 6:30 p.m. at the Tenley Friendship Neighborhood Library, 4450 Wisconsin Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. The library is on the 30 and H bus lines, and the nearest metro station is Tenley Town AU on the Red Line. The community comment portion of the meeting begins at a time certain of 7:30 p.m., regardless of where we are in the agenda. For more information, please email wpfwlsb@gmail.com. The messenger's waiting to hear from you.
listening to the Sophie's Parlor edition of Jazz and Justice Radio. I've been your diva of the day, Helen, and I've been thrilled to be here talking to us about their projects. And I look forward to seeing you in a future Sophie's Parlor. Coming up next will be news, and then after news, live at 5. And Summer from Four Women. And then we heard Janice Whaley's Golden Lights from the Smiths Project box set that she created. Enjoy your afternoon.
I got top for head. Can't shake it loose, can't get myself out of bed. News. I've been waiting tables all summer at this place on
is WPFW, Washington. I'm Askia Mohammed. Here are some headlines. President Trump and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker today announced a limited deal to avoid a further escalation of trade tensions. In an unexpected press conference, the two leaders said the European Union would buy more soybeans and liquefied natural gas from the United States as the U.S. and EU work to eliminate tariffs on industrial goods. Existing tariff plans would be put on hold, they said, while the steel and aluminum tariffs that Trump imposed earlier this year would be re-examined. Meanwhile, a federal judge today rejected Trump's latest effort to stop a lawsuit that alleges Trump is violating the Constitution by continuing to do business with foreign governments. The ruling from U.S. District Judge Peter Mesite in Greenbelt will allow the plaintiffs, the Attorney General of Maryland, and the District of Columbia to proceed with their case, which says Trump has violated little-used anti-corruption clauses in the Constitution known as the emoluments clauses. The ruling appeared to mark the first time a federal judge had interpreted those constitutional provisions and applied their restrictions to a sitting president. If the ruling stands, it could bring unprecedented scrutiny onto Trump's businesses, which have sought to keep their transactions with foreign states private, even as their owner sits in the Oval Office. The White House, in a statement from National Security Advisor John Bolton today, walked back Trump's invitation to Russian President Vladimir Putin for a meeting this fall, in a statement that said that, quote, the president believes that the next bilateral meeting with President Putin should take place after the Russia witch hunt is over. So we've agreed that it will be after the first of the year, Bolton's statement said. In the wake of the fallout of this summit this month with Putin in Helsinki, Trump tweeted that he was looking forward to our second meeting. A Kremlin official on Tuesday gave Trump's invitation a chilly reception, but kept the door open for another meeting in the future. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said today that the U.S. rejects Russia's attempted annexation of Crimea and called on Moscow to end its occupation of the territory. Quote, in concert with allies, partners, and the international community, the United States rejects Russia's attempted annexation of Crimea and pledges to maintain this policy until Ukraine's territorial integrity is restored. Pompeo said in a statement released in advance of his appearance before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Pompeo said the U.S. calls on Russia to respect the principles to which it has long claimed to adhere and end its occupation of Crimea, end quote. After weeks of headlines dominated by White House actions on the international stage, Pompeo faced questions from lawmakers this afternoon about the Trump administration and how it is managing foreign policy. A man with a history of violence has been charged in what police said appears to be an unprovoked fatal stabbing of a young woman traveling in Oakland on a Bay Area rapid transit train. A 27-year-old white man has been arrested for attacking two young African-American women on a BART train, killing 18-year-old Nia Wilson and wounding her sister Latifah. The stabbing attack sparked widespread outrage in Oakland, where hundreds of people marched through the streets to demand justice for Nia. Many Oakland residents have denounced the attack as a hate crime. The suspect does have a criminal history for a series of violent offenses, but authorities say they have not yet connected the suspect, John Lee Cowell, with any white supremacist groups. Today is day 5 of the tropical rain train, and it looks like rain is going to be with us again. Since last Tuesday, we've had more than 8.5 inches of rain at Reagan National. Rain ending in mostly cloudy and humid tonight, lows 67 to 72. Partly sunny with isolated thunderstorms on Thursday, highs 86 to 89. Currently, we have rain approaching and 83 degrees. Stay tuned for Live at 5. I'm Askia Mohammed. Thank you for listening.
Big show today. Hey, my name is Eddie Kane. We right down to it to do it. Hey, another great episode, Live at 5, Hip Hop Wednesdays, the big homie. You see who I got back there. As always, DJ Imperial, the militant one, Huey, baby, Huey. Today we got a special guest band, and I'm talking about you got to be all in. If you all in, then you all in. Man, without further ado, we can get to the crank right now. WPFW 89.3 FM, the big homie, the new wave. Let's get into it. The All In Band right here. Let's work.
Appreciate you for this one, man. Yeah. All right. Hey, come on, play it. Come on, play it. Play it. Something different right here, yo. Y'all, I'm just getting warmed up now, Eddie. Don't mind me. You hear me? Can I let it work right there, Ma? What it look like out there, Pep? Huh? Put your hands in the air. We live tonight. Now put your hands in the air right now. He done broke out in his dance. We didn't even get started like that. One more time. Hands up, my hands up. Tell me what put them up. Where they from, y'all? Come on. My hands up. Now put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Southside, now put your hands in the air. Watch the view, put your hands in the air. Uptown, now put your hands in the air. Cannon work, now put your hands in the air. Right there, Soggy, Rocky, and Hawk, let's work. Hey, like that part right there, y'all. Hey, crank it again. Don't go nowhere. Give me that part I like, Los. Right there. Hey, ride on the set. Bring that part back. Right there. Fire with a train, Eddie K. You dig?
WPFW 89.3 FM, the new wave in the DMV. Hey, I ain't even want to stop. I was at that joke party. I was freaking. They was like, when you want to stop? I was like, just keep freaking. Hey, man, Hip Hop Wednesdays, All In Band DC. The new wave. I got to tell y'all, too, we are live right now, WPFW Facebook page. You guys are one of my favorites, and y'all didn't know I was a fan because I used to come out and watch you at the Redskins game. You guys will open up the season and play live in the parking lot and entertain. I done seen you guys on Fox 5 DC. I mean, like, you guys already been moving. Who is the All In Band? Who is the All In Band? Somebody got to talk in the mic. We got to talk in the mic.
All of us, really. That's what I came up to name All In, because anybody that's in this band got to be all in this band. That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
I mean, y'all like a little clan. There's a lot of y'all.
Yeah, we're
it's a family.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
What goes into making up the All In Band?
What we call it is cookout music. Basically, like if you're at the barbecue, you listening to some music, got some potato salad, your ribs going. You know, you like, that's my jam. You want to get up and party and just have a good time, get your drink on, get your eat on, get some happy music in you. That's what it's about.
Well, you guys have done that, and we just getting started. Right quick, name all of the members. Go around the room.
All right, to the left, I got my man Uncle L on bass, Michelangelo on the lead, Los the Most on the keyboards, Big Benny Boo Boo on the keys,
Benny Boo.
Tommy G, the lead mic, Gemini, Yolanda, singer, Big T, Terry, cowbell percussionist, Crystal with a K, don't get it twisted. Do not say her name with a C. Crystal with a K, the singer. My man Chuck Lucky on the back there on the percussion. And my man Saki Maki 212. That's our section 212 right here.
Hey,
on the
that's
congos.
My man, like, hey, I'm really impressed. So you guys, I'm to understand you will be back at the stadium this year performing. I think that's September 16th.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
How did that first start?
Actually, and I'm gonna give them a plug, and you know, even though this is all in, it started when I was with Wisdom Speaks.
Shout out my man Wop.
My man Wop and them. Me and Marcus with that band.
No question.
They was the first ones to actually do it.
Right.
And then they didn't do it anymore. And I formed my band. Mark came with me, and we've been doing it 4 years in a row straight. So
crazy.
You know.
Now you are a young man.
Yeah.
How is it that you, as being this young, and I want to tell you, I want to see more music on. I was trying to find more. I was mad she sent me some old Fiesta. I knew y'all had some old records. I'm like, you being one of the youngest members, how is it that you're able to control the crowd, but you're able to also control and rock with your band? They listen.
Listen, that's all I gotta say. Everybody in here grown, you know. They love the same thing we love, you know, music.
Wow.
So I feel like I shouldn't have to yell at you to do your job. We all in this together, all in.
All in. Now, I noticed that you guys, most bands play a lot of covers. As we saw the other night on the BET Awards, they had a lot of go-go influenced records. The Migos with the Stir Fry, and there were a couple of Snoop. Why aren't we playing at these venues as entertainers, backing these artists?
That's a good question.
It's a general question.
That's
Anybody
a good
can answer.
question. Yeah,
Anybody
I open
can
that
answer.
up to anybody.
Anybody can answer. Anybody can answer. Go ahead. I want to hear what you guys say, darling.
It might be who you know. You might have to have that
I don't think so, because I think if you got a go-go influence, if you're doing a go-go influence record like, say, the Migos, which go-go band reached out to the Migos and said, hey, we think we could crank that for you because it's a go-go influence record? I'm sure they would have been open, but I think it's a lot of time it's a pride situation. So most people wouldn't even do that.
So you don't think the Migos heard Go-Go before?
No, Pharrell actually produced that record,
Okay.
which is a Virginia artist.
Yes.
So he knows the music, but what I'm saying is, as go-go bands, if I heard them, I saw a lot of people at one time, and shout out to Go-Go Report, my man Heartbeat, Conga Hour, and all that. Ernest L. I saw in that group one time, people were going off about go-go and the new records that are being played by these artists that are go-go influenced. Yet, who's taking the initiative to reach out to the artists and say, this is what we do? Or even practice the Stir Fry record and send it to them and say, listen, when you got next time, let us back you up, because we are the original go-go creators.
And I think that all comes from how DC is getting better now, but how DC is, quote unquote, known for is battling each other. You know, but now it seems like the go-go community is really coming together, so maybe next year that'll happen.
Yeah, I just think that as artists, you guys are artists. We gotta take the initiative. We gotta try new things. We gotta use our band as a business. This is a business, just not a band. The crank, y'all got the crank. Let's get the business going. You feel me? WPFW 89.3 FM. I ain't gonna say I'm getting to preaching. Work it out, G, it's gonna work. Nah, I ain't gonna do too much. Hey, one thing I do want to say, shout out, much respect, rest in peace, Joe Jackson passed away today, an icon in music. Sierra just hooked me up and told me, what was it, 9 years ago, 2 days ago, that Michael Jackson passed away. And we losing a lot of artists, rap artists, etc. We're going to get more into you guys, though. We're going to talk about the music. I ain't going to hold you. We're going to get into more music by All In. Right here, WPFW 89.3 FM. I'm the big homie. You know that lady back here going to be ready to rock in a minute. When we come back, we're going to talk about this commentary. Right now, let's get into it. All In, band. Word.